So I'm recording at the moment and you're all, as I said, very welcome. And just to give you a little bit of an idea about what we're going to do. So over the course of this short webinar, I'd like to share with you some information on the extensive range of part-time and professional and evening courses that we have on offer at NUI Galway. And it's just to give you some general information and also some general guidance about the courses on offer and how to choose the right one for you. So I'm going to ask you perhaps just for the housekeeping piece is to make sure that you have your microphone muted for the purposes of the presentation. And then when we have our questions and answer session at the end, that you can turn on your microphone. So you might just check for that for the moment. And also this evening, I'm joined by two people for our panel. I'm joined by Peter Casey, and Peter is the manager of the commercial department in CPL Galway. So you're very welcome this evening, Peter. Great to have you. And I'm also welcoming Yvonne Leahy. And Yvonne was a student on our BA in Training and Education program a number of years ago, but she's currently finishing our professional diploma in education in further education. So I'm just going to check for all the sounds. Yes, exactly. So very welcome, Yvonne, this evening. Thank you for making the time to come with us. And following this general overview, as a panel, we're going to spend some time, just 25 minutes discussing some areas of interest for adult learners. I'm just going to ask people to make sure that they have turned off their mics. I'm just going to check for that now. If you could just make sure that you have your mics muted, that would be great. Thank you. So, what our panel discussion will be is talking about areas of general interest for adult learners. And many of you here tonight are seeking to reskill for professional reasons. And we're going to look at those skills that industry are seeking and where the jobs are in the employment market, and also to find out a little bit more about what part-time study involves and the commitment that you may have to make if you're choosing to do a part-time program. So just looking at our part-time courses that we have on offer, they fall into kind of 9, what I would say, program areas. So we offer courses in business and management, science and technology studies, arts and the social sciences, in training and education, in a range of languages, community education and early childhood studies. And we also offer courses in information technology and in health promotion. And we offer an attractive a range of micro-credentials or short courses, which are new to our offering this year. So our courses are designed to focus on your continuing professional and personal development needs. And we provide an innovative curriculum and a range of teaching methods and assessment types and, I suppose, flexible learning pathways which you can take to progress your studies. Now, I'm just going to check for, just ask maybe again, that makes sure everyone has their mic turned off, if that would be great. Thank you. So you can check out our adult learning website for the information on our courses and what each has to offer. But just during the course of this presentation, I'm going to give you a few tips and techniques about what to look out for when you're choosing a part-time course. So at undergraduate level and at, I suppose, at postgraduate level, we offer a number of flexible learning pathways. So if you can see from the diagram here that I've drawn up, for the degree, you can take it as a 1-year certificate award, or you can continue to do 2 years for our diploma, or continue on for years 3 and 4 to do the full degree award. So these flexible learning pathways are very suitable for students who may wish maybe to enter and exit the course at different stages. Similarly, if you look at our master's structure, we have postgraduate courses that offer a 1-year certificate, and the second year leads to a postgraduate diploma, and then the option of continuing to the master's level in a 3rd year. So it's really flexible and can suit your needs. Similarly, the diplomas, our special purpose diploma awards, are offered at level 8 and 9 of the National Qualifications Framework. And these diplomas, such as lean and quality systems or learning and development, they're industry focused, and they enable students to develop their professional skills and apply their learning immediately to the workplace. And finally, on the slide, I've detailed some new developments that we have in the area of micro-credentials, which are modules that are available on a standalone basis that a student may wish to take for the purposes of upskilling, for work, or just to maintain their professional accreditation. And these modules can be available in online, in blended or classroom format. And students often ask me, well, how much time should I dedicate to study? And this will be a question I'll certainly be asking Yvonne later, but this will depend on, whether you are taking a single module, a diploma or a degree. So if you're undertaking a diploma or degree, you should be prepared to dedicate between 10 and 15 hours per week to your study. Now, that might seem a lot of time in your lives, particularly if you have a busy schedule, but in order to give yourself the best chance to succeed, you will need to set expectations and allocate time to your studies. And then what you might think about is, how does the blended learning or the online learning model work? So over the past 2 years, we've moved a number of our courses to fully online teaching, and that's been predominantly due to the pandemic, but also because we see that it suits our learners. So in a fully online course, you'll obtain all your course content online through the virtual learning environment, and that environment is called Blackboard at NUI Galway. And your content will be presented in a self-instructional format. It'll be clearly laid out in terms of a module overview, and it'll be divided into units and topics, and it'll make it really easy for you as a student to go through the course material yourself. But you'll also have access to content in other formats such as podcasts and videos. And some modules will have live webinars where you can interact with your fellow classmates and module lecture in real time, very like the format that we're talking about here this evening. But the readings will be assigned per topic, and you may also be asked to participate in moderated discussion boards, which you can complete in your own time. Now, there'll also be opportunities to assess your own learning through reflective practice journals or learning blogs. And other courses then are delivered through what we term blended learning model. And in this model, you will receive your course content online, just as in the online course, but you'll also have some seminars or workshops that'll take place as part of your course. And for those, you'll come to campus, and that'll be generally on the NUI Galway campus. And then in terms of assessment, they will vary across courses. So for example, in some courses, you may be graded on continuous assessment essays or projects which you can complete during the course. You might also be graded on your participation in a discussion forum where you would interact with other students around topical questions, or indeed you may have a group project with your fellow students. Or finally, you could have a written exam, and that can vary. Those are multiple types of assessments that can vary across the course. But I suppose the only thing I can say to you tonight, if you're listening in, is that whatever mode or a combination of assessments used, you'll be informed of this at the start of the module, and you'll be well prepared to complete all the requirements with the support of your lecturer. So that word assessment can put fear into the minds of many prospective students, but it shouldn't, because you'll be well supported. And then if you are somebody perhaps who really isn't sure about what course you want to study, or you really feel that you've been out of education for some time and aren't keen to jump right in even to that 1-year certificate or 2-year diploma, well, then we have something for you. We have foundation courses in business, in arts, and in science and engineering. And you can take these 1-year foundation. They're an excellent way to sample the subject area, and then also to build valuable study skills, which will help you make an informed choice going forward. And similarly, we have non-credit short courses that they're offered over a period of 8 weeks. They're very simply in things like languages, in literature or poetry or history. And people who take those just have a passion for the subject area, and they want to meet like-minded people and discuss their ideas. They don't necessarily want to attain a qualification, but they want to just experience the joy of learning. And I've included an item there around recognition of prior learning. And that's really important, because we recognize the learning that students come with when they come to NUI Galway. And this is a process called recognition of prior learning, or simply RPL. And what that is, it allows you to gain admission to a program of study or gain exemptions from some parts of a course because you've demonstrated the learning that you've achieved either through another course that you took or maybe through experiential learning. And on Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock, we're having a further, more detailed information session on recognition of prior learning. So if that means something to you, and if you think you have something to offer in that area, I'd advise you to check back in again on Wednesday when we have a more detailed slot on that. And we also recognise we have lots of students who are not getting their formal qualifications in Ireland. They've come from outside Ireland, and they're also eligible for entry to courses and are also eligible for RPL. And we use a system called NARIC to recognise their awards. So if that's you, make sure you contact us because we have a way in which we can recognise credits from other courses. And then very importantly, if you've thought about the course, you've decided the one you want to do, well, then you need to make your application. And how do you do that? Well, you go to our online application portal. I've given the web address there, and you can create an account, simply create an account with your credentials, select the course that you're interested in, and fill out the details about yourself. One thing I would say is that make sure you've checked the entry requirements, make sure you've met all the eligibility. These are listed under the Key Facts tab on the individual course web pages, and that's important to think about. And check also for supporting documentation. You'll have to give an ID, a form of ID. You may, if you're applying for a postgrad course, have to give evidence of your prior degree or certificate, and make sure you have that included as well. We offer, applications are opened now, and we make offers every 3 to 6 weeks. So make sure you apply soon because some places will be used up with prior applicants. So keep an eye on that. And generally our closing date is the end of August, but some courses may have an earlier closing date. So please make sure to check that out ahead of time. And then of course, prospective students always ask about fees, and this is a really topical question. So all the fees are listed on the website for next academic year. In general, you can pay your fees in 2 installments, 50% when you start the course and then 50% for semester 2. And if that's a challenge for you, and I appreciate that it can be for some students, we can put in an installment payment plan and we can work out a monthly payment for you. Important to remember that some courses are funded, and we have received funding for a number of courses through Springboard Plus. They are listed on our adult learning website, but we also have an information session on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock as well in relation to funding for Springboard. So if you're interested in that, make sure you call back to us again for a short session. Similarly, we have received SkillNet funding for certain SkillNet sectors. So important there to consider that as an option for you. If you are in receipt of a Department of Social Protection payment, then we have our own adult learning scholarships, which give you a 30% discount. And all our courses are relevant for that once you're in receipt of that payment. And then finally, in relation to 2 scholarships, there's the U-Varsity and there's the 1916 scholarships. Both of those provide financial support for first-time bachelor degree entrants, and they're not limited to any subject areas. They are for students in the Republic of Ireland, and they're opened now at the moment for application. This week, we have a complete set of seminars running. They're running from today until Friday at that web address, our Adult Learning Virtual Information event. We also have drop-in sessions for anyone who might like to ask a little bit more about a particular course and want to come in person. That's all happening from 12 to 2 each day this week in our offices in Nuns Island. Or also you can call us directly on our phone number or email us on our adult learning email address, and we will set up times for you to meet people online if coming into the centre isn't an option for you. We also have scheduled sessions that we can set up for you, and just drop an email to the adult learning email address and we'll make sure that you are meeting the correct person from our team in terms of follow-up information. So that completes just the first part of our session. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open up our session now to our panel, and I can come back to that website again at the end of our session. So I'm just going to introduce again both Peter Casey from CPL and Yvonne Leahy, a current student and nearly finishing her program with us. So maybe I'll start with you, Yvonne. I feel that perhaps some of the things I mentioned there might resonate with you, and I'm conscious that tonight we have a lot of adult learners who are kind of thinking about what they might want to do, and you were there a couple of years ago. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and what motivated you to take a course with us, Yvonne?
Sure, no problem. I suppose when I left school, I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I went on a little journey career-wise. I did my banking exams, and then I fell into training and education. And I had a lot of experience with it. But what I found was, from a professional aspect, I really didn't have any proper formal education. And I suppose we use the term lifelong learning very much nowadays, and it's a case before you went to school, you got your qualification, then you worked. But we have to keep upskilling now, and that's one of the things that I had to look at. I looked at my CV and I felt it was lacking. And also, I think for me, it was a personal thing as well to build up confidence. And I think that's something that would probably resonate with a lot of you, is that, you know, having the confidence to go back out there as an adult learner. And I think as an adult learner, you have a better idea as to what you want. You're more committed. But the thing about it is that it's very scary, because we're conditioned to school and maybe bad experiences we may have had, but very, very different. So I'm glad I took the step. I started back to do the BA. Well, initially it was the certificate. Nuala, you mentioned there that with some of the programs you can do a year, then you can go on and do 2 years. So my intention was just to do a certificate. I'm based in West Cork. So one of the things that I looked at for NUI was the schedule. And I know you mentioned as well about the online, the blended, and I was working. So I didn't want to be giving up as an adult learner my job. So it really fitted. And that's kind of how I started. Will I continue with my journey a little bit more?
Well, actually, that's fantastic. And you've really picked up some points that I had mentioned in the presentation around that piece around entering and exiting as you needed. That was really important to you. You were a bit fearful of jumping into 4 years, I would imagine. Anyone would be.
Definitely. And just having the confidence, going back as an adult learner, I suppose we're our own worst enemy. We're kind of saying, oh gosh, you know, I don't have time. But the thing about it is, you know, you build up confidence as you're going along, and you meet like-minded people, and you meet more mature learners as well. And there's peer learning, you learn from each other. And then I did the certificate, loved it so much. And I found that the lecturers up in NUI as well, in the Adult Learning Centre, were very empathetic and very respectful of adult learners. There was a lot of support. So I continued, and I actually did my degree. Then I moved to do, I did a VLE module up in Galway, which I loved, and I did a master's, and then I returned to do my postgrad, which I'm just finishing up now.
So continuously learning, and just to mention, the VLE is the virtual learning environment, which is what a lot of our courses are delivered through. So that was the Blackboard virtual learning. So that's fantastic. So you definitely have spent almost, I don't want to count how many years, but a lot in the last 2 years have been studied. So that's amazing. You won't know what to do with yourself when you finish your professional diploma in further education. Yes.
And funny enough, other people that I've spoken to, it wasn't their intention. You might just, you know, plan to do just maybe a certificate, but it's just the enjoyment, the learning, building your confidence. There's a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge. I suppose really when I looked at myself, I was more self-taught, and from a professional and personal development, it's something that I needed. And, you know, it's benefited me as well, career-wise.
Fantastic. Well, maybe on that point, I might move to Peter. So Peter, you're on the other side of the equation. You're on the hiring side. You're with CPL. You're talking to industry every day. Yvonne mentioned that she needed to get the skills to upgrade and for her career. What are you seeing on the industry side in relation to skills and the gaps in industry today?
That's exactly it, and that was exactly the point that I picked up on, was that continuous learning and having that formal education, how important that is in today's jobs market. I suppose the jobs market in general, there's a shortage of talent across the country. I've been at numerous events over the past 2 to 3 weeks, with clients setting up these events coming from all sectors, and the number one thing that's coming from it is talent, shortage of talent. No matter what they are, that's their big driver. Okay, so look at CPL, we're Ireland's largest recruitment agency, and to give you a bit of a scope, in the past 12 months we've seen a 4-fold increase on jobs advertised on our website. So that'll just give you a kind of an idea. In terms of the actual skills, look at, I suppose, if it's anything from someone who's looking to change career or to upskill, certainly we feel that there's a job for you. Going over the courses that the Centre of Adult Learning provide, be it in IT, be it in community health, be it in training and education, be it in languages, we see a massive demand across the wider CPL group. Within my area, it's a huge amount of IT, engineering, accountancy, sales, administration, customer service, languages. It's in that type of cohort is where I see the massive demand in Galway and the west of Ireland, and across the country, in fact, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, so that's incredible. And I mean, we all know it, we hear it so often, we're nearly to full employment in terms of the job market. Yeah. And are you seeing, Peter, that a lot of people tonight might be involved working already and are in companies, they want to kind of move up in the company. Yeah. Are you seeing companies supporting employees and investing in the potential that an employee has for the future growth in the company?
That's actually the most important thing at the moment is staff retention. So how are you going to look after your staff? So be it continuous improvement, be it payment for internal courses, be it being flexible in terms of their work and their work-life balance, everything like that. It's to try and find out what's important to candidates, or to the employee. Back in the day, it was all money. It's not so much now. Can I finish at 5 o'clock? Can I go look after the kids? Can I start an hour later? Can I have more flexi hours? Can we build in core hours? Maybe some companies, instead of giving a standard benefits package, what's important to you? There's a lump sum of money to go and buy health insurance or whatever it is. So there's businesses out there that tailor their benefits package and their and how they look after their employees. So hopefully that'll give a bit of an overview.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thanks for that. And then I might just come to you, Yvonne, in relation to the idea of, you had mentioned you had started in banking. You might tell us what you're working at today and how the course
I'm glad here enough
worked for you. And I'm just checking. I might just ask everybody to mute their mic.
There's no rush at all. Just take your time.
Sorry, one moment now. I'll just check. Yeah,
thank you. Honestly.
So, now, Yvonne, I might ask you to take up that comment.
Take your time. Don't be rushing.
However, yes, I had banking and I did my banking exams. And actually, when I was in the bank, I fell into the training sector.
No, I'm grand. Thanks, love.
Sorry, Yvonne. I'm just looking to
no problem.
And just
so when I did my banking exams, and I fell into training actually when I was in the bank, and I did a lot of contract training through private training companies. And that's kind of the career path that I went into, and the reason I went back to do the certificate in the Adult Learning Centre. And I kind of progressed from that, and then I ended up getting my BA, and now I'm actually a qualified teacher from it. So that's the path, the journey that I went. So it wasn't what I decided to do after school. Funnily enough, it just evolved, and that's the way I went. And I think having the guidance as well in the Adult Learning Centre, and building that confidence, made you go that direction then as well, which was great.
Okay, so it was an immediate impact for you training and doing that particular course.
Definitely, yeah. It was really to upskill, as Peter was saying. That's an important thing. I hadn't initially probably intended it coming to be a qualified teacher, but I loved it so much, and with the support and guidance that I actually got along the way as well.
That's very helpful. And one interesting point I was making earlier is about time and trying to study and balance. How did you manage that as an adult learner?
When I started, my son was only a couple of months old, and it is a roller coaster of emotions that you will go through. And as a teacher now, I can empathize with my own students and my learners, and it is, but the rewards outweigh it. You have to be organized, but you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be realistic. One of the, I suppose, the great things was this flexibility of doing blended learning. And I know, Nuala, you were saying there, it's a combination of online and it's a combination of face-to-face. I'm down in West Cork. It wasn't viable for me when I was working to be going to college every day. So I was still able to work, juggle family life and still study. Yes, it was hard, but you kind of had to be a bit organized, have a schedule, but the support was there to help you along the way. We set up a WhatsApp group as well, the learners. So we supported each other, peer-to-peer learning also.
Excellent. And I think that's a big piece, that camaraderie between students. It's really, really supportive. And I suppose we're kind of seeing, I know when we all moved home first during the lockdowns, and we looked at the similarities between, say, online learning, blended learning, and almost remote working, we saw a lot of similarities that need to be organized, and the time management. And Peter, I'm just wondering, in terms of the way the workforce has gone and the way the pandemic has changed the mode of working, what are you seeing those skills now requiring us to be able to combine the remote working and complete the job at the same time?
Absolutely. I think a strong, not a strong understanding, but familiarity with technology is really important. When we finished up on that Friday in March 2020, whenever it was, we didn't know what we were going to do, but luckily we had Microsoft Teams plugged into our business, and that following week it was just like I was in that virtual office and we were all right beside one another. So we actually found it quite seamless. We've seen that COVID has made the jobs market national as opposed to a local market. We've seen, obviously, we've seen a mixture of the fully remote and the hybrid and back to the office. I'm in the office here in Merchants Road 5 days a week, and I hope I never go back to the kitchen, because I just wanted that disconnect, and I was lucky to have that. But that's a personal thing. I'm a 15-minute walk from the office, but I have colleagues of mine that were commuting for 3.5 hours a day, and that's absolutely massive. Given the way the cost of fuel is going, it's going to be even more important. The hybrid piece and the virtual piece, I still think it's quite important to have that in-person piece. I think collaboration is important for a quicker uptake. I think we're all social beings. I think this is my own personal opinion, but it's nice to be around other people. But it's given everyone a better work-life balance. But it's very important. You have to be diligent with yourself. When it's time to finish work, it's time to finish work, and you look after yourself. And when I was at home in the kitchen, I was getting up, I was having my dinner, I was putting the kids to bed, and then there was more work, and that had to stop. And now so it's really important for prioritization, time management, managing your workloads accordingly, and communicating with management to say, look, what you're telling me isn't feasible in this time frame. So managing expectations is very important. So strong communication skills, because you can become some of my colleagues, let's say, you mightn't see them from 1 week to the next, and it's important just to have that kind of constant connection with one another. So yeah.
Well, so much you're saying there kind of strikes me as relevant. I see Yvonne was nodding her head, that piece for study, because time management is critical when you're an adult learner. And I always say to students, set expectations around you, be it your family or your line manager, and try and, isolate that time for study. That's hard to do. Did you find that, Yvonne, in terms of just kind of being almost selfish and saying, I need to do that?
Guilty in one sense, especially when you've got kids.
Yeah,
because you're realizing you have a deadline and you have to do something. but
Yeah.
then you're being a good role model for them as well, you know, so it's kind of twofold. But it is, and you know, that's why you have to be kind of kind to yourself, because you know there are going to be times that you won't get what you had intended to be done, but you know, you just have to have some kind of a schedule. And funnily enough, you kind of fall into it. You need to get to know yourself as a learner. Do you work better in the morning? Are you more productive in the morning, or are you more productive in the evening? For me, I found as well that I was better in the morning. So I used to get up that little bit earlier, and that couple of hours that I did in the morning was a lot more productive than what I would for the evening. Now, other learners who were on the course were the opposite. So it's kind of getting to know yourself, what works around your family and everything as well. But for me, I suppose, again, it's going back to the blended. I had more time because I didn't have to travel from West Cork to Galway all the time. Even one of my, let's say, classmates in the course that I'm in now, he has a disability, so he's wheelchair bound. And it was great for him because it gave him the flexibility. He was still able to continue to do the course. So it was very diverse and inclusive, I suppose, really, which I think is really important.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's a real pillar for adult learning in general, not only in NUI Galway, but nationally. We're very committed to inclusive education. And I think that was one of the real benefits maybe of the online learning and maybe remote learning, is that we were providing content in different formats, and that would suit it for people who maybe just found it hard maybe to absorb information in the classroom and needed to see it written or visually, and it was available then again online. And also recordings were done for webinars or for seminars, and it was so helpful for people who maybe struggled just to take information in at the point it was delivered. They could go back over it again and increase it. And it's that whole idea of the universal design for learning. What's good for one is good for all. And I think that's something we've really developed a skill set in over the last 2 years, for sure. And I'm just thinking then again around, you know, the people we have tonight are thinking about courses, skills, and Peter, in terms of those, you know, jobs and where the future market is going, you know, what kind of skills would you advise people to maybe think about to be ready for maybe opportunities that are rising? You mentioned a few earlier. Do you want to elaborate a bit more on that? Give people some food for thought as they look for a course schedule.
Absolutely. I've actually broken it down into maybe 5 or 6 different areas, okay, so, where I see demand today, and I'm going to see demand, I think, in the years to come. They're in the technology sector, engineering, healthcare, accountancy, and administration, and your business administration, commercial world, right? There's massive demand out there for all of those different areas. So if you wanted to look at the technology area, software engineering is in high demand at the moment, and within that there's different languages, let's say. So you've got Java, .NET, and SQL, which is abbreviated to SQL. Those particular languages are going to give you a foundation in technology, and where your skill set is going to be in demand for years to come. Okay, so that's a definite. I think science engineering, look, we're in Galway. It's full of medical device, pharmaceutical companies. The big demand we're seeing at the moment is around design assurance, quality assurance, research and design, regulatory affairs. So anyone that's maybe doing a bachelor's in biopharma, chemistry, who completes that, maybe manage to get an internship, can then pivot into a quality engineer course, into a design assurance type of a journey. That's and they're massive in demand positions across the board, and you just can't get people for them at the moment. Accountancy, the good solid one as ever. ACCA, ACAs, so go in to do your BCom, whatever it is, and then go through accountancy practice, be it the Big Four, top 10, any of the small to medium size training firms. Get a solid training, solid training there, and again, your skill set will be in high demand. For anyone that's in maybe more commercial sales orientated, what we're seeing is massive demand for software sales. So these guys and girls are desk-based, managing full sales cycles from lead generation to close, and it's again massive demand there. Administrators that are desk-based, strong typing skills, great Microsoft Suite skills. I've about 10 positions that came in today that I need people for. So that, and hopefully that'll just give you a flurry of, and then I haven't even gone into the healthcare. So CPL, a huge part of our organization is healthcare recruitment, anything from nurses, doctors, healthcare assistants, you name it, in Ireland and abroad. And what that team are doing is we have to look overseas. We have to look at the Philippines, the Indias, the Pakistans, because the skill sets aren't in Ireland. So if you have that skill set, or if you want to be that person, you're going to be high in demand. There'll be no problem getting a job.
Well, it sounds like there's a huge shoppiness there, and a couple of things I've just picked up in terms of the BCom, the sales, the marketing, that really fits nicely into our business and management courses that will be talked about tomorrow night at 6:30. And equally the sales and technology, the regulatory affairs, software engineering. We have a session at 7 on Wednesday for that. So if anyone's interested, please call around and listen to what's on offer there. So that's really critical. Maybe I'll just kind of coming up towards, I did promise we wouldn't keep people more than 45 minutes. It's a busy evening in everyone's house this evening, I'm sure. Can I maybe come to Yvonne and just come back to, if you had one piece of advice to offer students this evening, or prospective students, what would that be, and what note would you leave them on today?
Just go for it is what I would say, basically, and have the confidence, I suppose, from being the person who wasn't, confident. Don't let that stop you, just to go for it, and communicate. Even that's the one thing when you do the course, communicate with your lecturers. And if you are struggling or time, they're so supportive. It's adult learning. It's not like school. And that's one of the things that made it a lot more, I suppose, enjoyable and possible. So just to go for it. And with the blended, it is definitely, you have to be more diligent, as you were saying there, Peter, as well. It's like the remote working, but it has a lot of the benefits of it, really,
Great.
I even actually, believe it or not, have, because of doing the studying, one of the courses I deliver, I've changed to blended.
Oh, wonderful. So you were definitely putting it into practice immediately.
I put it into practice, yeah.
Very good. And I'm going to ask the same question to Peter, but before I do so, I just want to remind the audience, if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask just at the end, please raise your hand and I'll come to you just after I ask Peter. Maybe the same question, Peter. What's your last piece or best piece of advice for people this evening?
I suppose make sure that your CV is in good order. Make sure that it looks correct, the formatting is correct. Make sure that you're applying to a job where you have the qualifications and the experience. If you don't, reach out to a recruiter and explain what you're trying to look for so that we can assist you in the right direction. And that's, if I can't help you, I will point you in the right direction. And that's really important to us. Don't take no for an answer. Don't just stop at one person. Go to the next person and go to the next person, because there's loads of jobs out there at the moment all over the country, and you mightn't just be looking in the right place the first time. So just keep going.
Be persistent. That's what the advice is. Don't be put off by the first no. For somebody
Exactly.
who was raised on the word no, I understand it completely. I really do. We have a quiet audience this evening. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I know that you've given quite a lot of really valuable information. So I really want to thank you very much for your time this evening, both Peter and Yvonne, and for everybody who participated. I thank you very much for coming along. We're going to have a recording of this presentation available on our site later on. But for now, I want to advise you to dip in, make sure that you check out the other virtual events that will take place during the week, and then to make sure you come back to our website and seek to apply for any courses that might be of interest to you. So thanks very much again, and I wish you all the best and every success in your future choice, of course, and in your future studies as well. So thanks again to Yvonne, and thanks to Peter. We're very grateful for your time.